Right now, something strange is happening in the global economy. Prices are rising everywhere. Groceries cost more, rent is exploding, energy bills keep climbing. Millions of people feel like they are working harder than ever, yet somehow falling further behind. And most people think this is just another economic crisis. But what if it's not? What if this is something much bigger? Because behind the headlines, behind the inflation, behind the chaos, a silent transfer of wealth is happening, possibly the biggest transfer of wealth in modern history, and almost nobody sees it. To understand what's happening, we need to zoom out, because this isn't just about prices going up, it's about how money moves through the system. When new money is created, it doesn't reach everyone at the same time. The people closest to the financial system get it first. Banks, corporations, large investors, and by the time that money reaches ordinary people, prices have already gone up, which means something strange happens. The same money buys less, and slowly, without anyone noticing, wealth begins to move. And if this sounds unbelievable, history tells a very different story. Because this isn't the first time wealth has quietly shifted during a crisis. In fact, it happens almost every time. Take the financial crisis of 2008. Millions of people lost their homes. Jobs disappeared. Entire families saw their savings wiped out. But while the public was struggling, something very different was happening behind the scenes. Central banks injected trillions of dollars into the financial system. Markets recovered, stocks surged, real estate prices eventually exploded, and those who owned assets became dramatically richer. The same thing happened again in 2020. During the pandemic, governments printed enormous amounts of money. Markets crashed briefly, then exploded upward, and the richest individuals in the world added hundreds of billions to their wealth, which raises a very uncomfortable question. Is this chaos actually part of the system? But if two financial worlds exist, why aren't more people moving into the second one? The answer is surprisingly simple. Most people were never taught how money actually works. In school, we learn mathematics, history, science, but almost nobody learns the rules of money. Instead, people are taught something very different. Work hard, save your money, avoid risk, and someday everything will work out. But the financial world doesn't reward the hardest workers. It rewards the smartest systems. And once you understand these hidden rules, the entire economy starts to look very different. But the system doesn't just move money, it also shapes the way people think about money. Because if everyone understood how wealth actually grows, the system would look very different. Instead, most people are encouraged to chase something else. Status, new cars, bigger houses, expensive clothes, the illusion of success. And while people compete to look wealthy, the truly wealthy quietly buy assets. Because the biggest difference between the rich and everyone else isn't intelligence, it isn't luck, it's behavior. But here's where things become really interesting, because during moments of economic fear, most people make the same mistake. They panic, they sell, they retreat, and they try to protect what little they have left. But the most experienced investors do something completely different. They prepare for moments like these. Because when fear spreads through the market, prices fall, assets become cheaper, opportunities appear. And while the crowd is running away from risk, the smartest investors are quietly moving in the opposite direction. They begin buying, not recklessly, but strategically. They buy businesses they buy real estate, they buy shares of companies that will still exist 10 years from now. Because history shows something remarkable. Every crisis eventually ends, markets recover, innovation continues, and those who position themselves during the chaos often benefit the most when stability returns, which means that what looks like disaster to the majority can look like opportunity to those who understand the system. But the story doesn't end with past crises, because right now, a new transformation is already beginning, a technological shift that could reshape the global economy once again. Artificial intelligence, automation, digital infrastructure. Entire industries are changing faster than ever before. Some jobs will disappear, new ones will emerge, entire companies will rise, while others quietly fade away. And just like every economic shift before it, this transformation will create enormous new wealth, but not for everyone. History shows that during moments of technological change, those who adapt early often benefit the most. They learn, they observe, they position themselves before the crowd fully understands what is happening, because by the time the opportunity becomes obvious, the biggest gains are often already gone, which is why the people who pay attention to these shifts today may be the ones who benefit most from tomorrow's economy. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people will completely miss these opportunities, not because they aren't smart enough, not because they lack talent, but because of something much simpler: human psychology. You see, people naturally follow the crowd. When everyone is excited, they buy. When everyone is afraid, they sell. And by the time the opportunity becomes obvious to everyone, it's usually already too late. This pattern has repeated itself again and again throughout history. During the early days of the internet, many people ignored it. During the rise of smartphones, most people didn't see the opportunity, and today, the same thing may be happening with new technologies and new economic shifts. Because when change first begins, it rarely looks obvious. It looks uncertain, it looks risky, and that uncertainty keeps most people on the sidelines. But for those who pay attention, these moments can define an entire financial future. So what does all of this really mean? It means that the global economy has always moved in cycles, periods of stability, moments of crisis, moments of opportunity, and throughout history, the people who understood these cycles were able to position themselves differently from the crowd. They didn't wait for perfect conditions. They prepared during uncertainty. They studied how money actually works. They built assets instead of chasing status. And over time, those decisions compound. Small advantages become large ones. Small investments grow into powerful systems. And eventually, something interesting happens. The same economic forces that once worked against you begin working for you. Because wealth, at its core, is not about predicting the future perfectly. It's about positioning yourself so that when opportunity appears, you are ready. And while the world will always remain uncertain, one thing has remained surprisingly consistent. Those who understand the rules of money tend to do very well over time. The question is no longer whether the system exists. The question is which side of it you choose to stand on.